Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mormonish. I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Landon.
And we have an awesome episode for you, don't we? This is going to be really interesting.
Looks fun. You put it together, so it's always fun when you do that.
I did kind of accidentally. I'm like, this is good. I want to do this and I want to put it out right away. That's how I operate. And Landon's like, what? Wait, another F. I'm like, yes. So
That's right. You get way too excited.
I do get way too excited. So we thought we'd give a little message at the top of the show, though, kind of about everybody, sort of a thank you for sticking by us and by the town of Fairview, right?
Absolutely.
They just had their meeting on Tuesday, and so many of you watched, and so many of you are up to date on the issues and the situation, and have sent encouraging messages to all of us that are podcasting about Fairview and to people in Fairview. And it's just wonderful to see. I mean, it's seriously, it just absolutely, to use a Mormon phrase, buoys them up, right?
It does buoy them up. Yep.
It does. It does. And it's interesting because I don't know if you've noticed, I've noticed this today and yesterday on faithful social media, that people are kind of buzzing about it. Like, hey, what's up with Fairview? What are the actual issues? I've seen questions on even the uber faithful sites asking, what are the real issues? What is really happening? So I feel like maybe having all their residents go to watch parties and stake centers and hearing this information from the town council, from residents presented very calm, very, informational. They know what they're talking about way. I feel like now maybe faithful members are going, what is this issue? So did you kind of get that sense?
I did. I think you couldn't watch that without going, oh my gosh, this is a train wreck for the LDS leadership. It was a bunch of people threatening to sue, being on bad behavior, while the town councils just stood there and sat and listened and said thank you. And they did respond, but they responded in a professional manner. And I thought they did a great job. And I think the town is to be applauded.
Yep, I think so too. They did a wonderful job of just saying, thank you for your time. And these are our ordinances and codes. Please come back. We would love to build your temple for you and for your residents. And I love the way they treated the youth. There were several, even as young as like a 12-year-old, I think, very young, and some young, 17, 18, who got up in court and bore their testimony about how much the temple meant and how they didn't want to drive to Dallas. And you know what? The council listened and they were very respectful. They asked them questions. They commended them, for being wonderful youth. I think a lot of people came away from that going, I thought this was about religious persecution. I thought the town didn't like us. Look how nice they're treating us. And I wonder what the issues really are. That's kind of the sense I got, that they might have learned there's more to this than they're being told, because they're being told to only pay attention to, the church sources and the letters from the stake presidents and things.
Well, I would say if anybody has a family member, ask them who's a believing Mormon, you can go right to the Fairview website and you can have them watch that and see what they think. No comment, nothing. They just watch it and can see and make their own decision. I think that will change some minds.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that a lot of times, and we're going to do an episode about this, pushback from active members, faithful members, can make changes. I'm talking about IRDA. I'm talking about the MTC in Provo. We are going to do an episode about these issues because it does make a difference. The church values what their members say. And as we've said before, a lot of the information we get here on Mormonish letters and things like that are from faithful Mormons who say, I can't come out and say anything, but I think my church can be better and I want a temple. Let's just speed up this process. So somebody said, don't contact the town, contact the church, let them know. There are so many floor plans and ways that you could build a temple today on that site. And that's what the town council is saying. We would love to approve, stamp it right now. Let's get it built. But that's not what's happening. And I think a lawsuit is coming.
The church had 2 months that they could have fixed this.
Yeah,
they could fix this tomorrow, but instead they're choosing to be to use litigation, bullying tactics, and everything else. They could simply come back with a plan that complies with the town's regulations and build it. And everybody gets what they want. The town gets what they want from the ordinance. The Latter-day Saints get a temple. Everybody gets what they want. There's an easy solution here. But there's one side who's saying we won't bend
Yep.
over, we
We won't
won't
budge.
compromise, we won't do anything. The town is already saying you can build as high as the highest building in this area,
Which is your
which is
building.
your church already, and you can have that. That's higher than the regulations. This is what we will allow. We'll give it to you. But the church will not take that. They want everything or nothing.
I know. And I was thinking today about, we did an episode where we said the Yorba Linda temple would fit perfectly with the same number of instruction rooms, a little bit of modification here or there, fit all of the needs, everything they need, the baptistry, the sealing room, the instruction room. So I wonder if Yorba Linda's going, well, what's our temple? Chopped liver?
Yeah.
Why can't you, what's wrong with our design that you're so no. So I was thinking today that it would be interesting, and I'm going to make a post about this. If you're comfortable to have a conversation with family members that might show some interest, just kind of discuss it. And like I've said before that I had a conversation with a family member and I kind of went through things that were happening. And I said, does this sound like a good neighbor? Does this sound Christ-like? Does this sound ethical? And my family member said, well, no, it really doesn't. And I said, well, then what do you think? And they said, that doesn't matter. The temple must be built at all costs, right? So that's my family member. But I do wonder if some of you had conversations with other kinds of people, faithful Mormons, they might go, yeah, that doesn't sound ethical. And there is a way that the temple can be a blessing to the neighborhood that they describe. And I wonder if, they might even contact their own leaders. I had a friend today, it was Mark, I think, was it? Yeah. And he tried to make a post about just kind of bringing that up. Maybe you could write letters to your bishop or talk to your bishop and stake president and say, God, we should just try to figure out a way to get along and get this temple in there. And the post wasn't even allowed on different sites where he tried to put it. So anyway, you can hope, right? Open dialogue.
You know what the temple needs? Cosmetic surgery.
Segue. There it is. That's exactly right. That's
little nip here, a little tuck there.
Little tuck there, little snip. I mean, they did say they would snip the spire
They
15
did say they'd
feet.
snip the spire.
Yeah, let's go to our first slide because this topic has nothing to do with temples really, but it's a super interesting topic that's been in the news.
Your body's a temple, so I think it counts.
Okay. Another segue from Landon. You're right. Your body is a temple. And we were going to talk about that concept that really plays into this. So a lot of you have noticed there's been a couple articles we're going to go through one today and just some talk about Mormons and cosmetic surgery. Now, I have a funny story. I had a friend visit me years ago. She was from the Seattle area and she was staying at my house in the heart of Utah County, where I spent the last, however many, 30 years, whatever. Anyway, so there's a magazine that comes to our area called Utah Valley Magazine. And it's kind of a paid magazine where people pay to put their ads in it. It's very slick, has all kinds of stuff. And so she was thumbing through it and she goes, can I take this home with me? It's just something you get in the mail. And I go, sure. Why do you want to take that home? And she goes, I try to describe to my friends in Seattle what Utah is like. This magazine will show them. Every other page is a cosmetic surgeon or a lawyer or a luxury home ad, or, she just went through everything that is Utah and Utah County. But yeah, she was so impressed that she wanted to show her friends the essence of Utah County and Utah with this magazine. And a lot of the ads were for cosmetic surgery. So I think this has been something that all of us have gone, is this something that's common to Utah? And again, nothing wrong with it at all. It's a completely personal decision, nothing wrong whatsoever. But I think the questions that are being brought up is there some kind of undue influence or pressure that women and men are feeling as far as their appearance in the Mormon microverse, right?
Well, I think you can't live in Utah and not have heard that Utah has the most plastic surgeons per capita of any state. So
yep. That is absolutely a correct stat. And so there's a question about that. Exactly. You just wonder why would that be Utah? So there was a great article in the Tribune just the other day by our friend Peggy Fletcher Stack. And I think we're just going to read through a little bit of this, and then we're going to add some of our own things that we found to kind of dive into this question. So, and I hope you guys will comment and tell us what you think about this issue, because it is really interesting. And again, a personal choice, nobody's business, a personal choice, but it is interesting to kind of dissect whether there's this undue pressure or influence. So I'll start out with the article. It says, you may have seen a billboard on Interstate 15 offering cosmetic services with the slogan, God's remodeling his temple. Isn't it time you remodeled yours?
Jeez.
That's
Wow.
great. Honestly. And there it is. It's pulling at the Mormon heartstrings and it's reminding you that you need to get a little nip tuck, right? You got to do something. So I just thought that was great. Or perhaps you've heard the supposed statistic that Salt Lake City has more plastic surgeons per capita than Los Angeles, or that Utahns Googled breast augmentation at the highest rates in the nation. I have read that, all of that.
Well, that's not fair because they might be looking for free porn that they can get
Oh
away
my
with without
God.
going to church, without having to go to the bishop. It's those Mormon workarounds you learn as an LDS boy.
I don't know anything about like the Old Navy mailer. Is that what you're saying?
The J.C. Penney underwear catalog when you were 15, you know.
You know what? I've never been a 15-year-old boy, so I don't really know about that. We might need to do an episode on that if you can clue us in, because I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, you may know the rationale put forth by some that such beauty enhancements are done primarily by those not involved in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So not Mormons are doing this in Utah. After all, argue Latter-day Saint defenders, the church is pro-body and teaches that humans were created in the image of God. This is true. That is one of the things that we learn. And there's a nice Barbie couple. I'm using a Barbie theme tonight in front of an LDS temple. So, Landon, what is the reality?
Well, according to two Brigham Young University researchers, about 14% of Latter-day Saint respondents have had major cosmetic surgery, including breast augmentations, tummy tucks, and liposuction. And 20% have undergone cosmetic enhancements such as laser hair removal, Botox injection, or skin procedures. That's not off the charts, but it is above the national average, which is 4% for cosmetic surgery. However, they do not have 2 pairs of earrings.
No, they do not have 2 pairs of earrings. That's right. Everything but. That's exactly right. So I think I put the stats on the next slide to make it kind of clear what we're talking about here.
I just want to say, if you can't have 2 pairs, you got to make the pair you have count. And that's why the breast augmentation.
Oh my God. I probably should not have let you on this podcast. You're alienating half of our audience, maybe all of our audience. So again, to reiterate that stat, the national average for cosmetic surgery is 4% of people undergo cosmetic surgery, but Latter-day Saint respondents to this survey who have had major cosmetic surgery is 14%, which leaves us with what? How much higher than the national average?
That'd be 10% higher. It's like, is that coincidence?
I don't know. It sounds like
tithing. Yeah.
It sounds like tithing. That's so interesting. I have a story. Maybe I should tell it now. I have a story about, it's kind of about tithing and what a bishop used fast offerings for in a ward that I was in. So there was a woman who had gotten divorced and she wanted to put in a bathroom in her downstairs level so that she could take in a renter, and make some extra income. And so the bishop gave her a pretty good chunk of change from the ward to be able to do this, which was very kind of her, because he thought, I'll get her, stabilized. She'll have a renter. She'll have an income. So, and I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know how you make sure, maybe some of you bishops in the chat can tell me, but how do you make sure that the person that you give the money to does with it what you have given it to them for, if that makes sense? But in this case, this woman instead went and had a mommy makeover or some variation of that. And it did all work out because she met someone very quickly and got remarried.
Probably the renter that she was going to get.
It could have been the renter. So, I know that the bishop didn't, intend to give her money for cosmetic surgery, but it kind of happened that way. So that's kind of an interesting story. I typically don't think, and you can tell me if you're a bishop or a ward clerk in the comments, if that is something that typically your ward would fund for you. I don't think it is.
I think that must have come out of the Ensign Peaks Fund.
Yeah. And this was a long time ago. This was like 30 years ago. So people weren't watching the store back then, but it's a success story, I guess. I don't know. All right, let's go to our next slide. Here we go. Let's see, it says, these conclusions are reported in a newly published survey, Bodies at Church, Latter-day Saint Doctrine, Teachings, and Culture as Related to Body Image. And that's what we're going to be talking about, by Sarah Coyne and Laura Barnes, professors at BYU's School of Family Life. And this is from the Utah Women in Leadership Project. Their research, the authors say, represents the largest study ever on potential connections among Latter-day Saint religion, doctrine, culture, and body image. Because anecdotally, it seems like there must be some kind of connection, right? We're higher by 10% than the entire national average. Why would that be here in Utah? It's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of some reasons. Let's see what the research said, though.
That's right. Let's not let Landon give his reasons. Let's look at the research. And can you guys tell that I had so much fun with my AI today? I'm like, I mean, I think we've mentioned before that because I was raised in such an Orthodox Mormon home, I was never allowed to have a Barbie. She was too well developed, right? And God knows I couldn't have a Ken. I mean, I couldn't delve into those mysteries. No, but I could have a Skipper. For those of you who remember, that was Barbie's little sister, right? Skipper. She was like a teenager, but my mom, not knowing any better, got me Grow Up Skipper. Do you know what that is, Landon?
You have told us about it before, so I know you like wind her arms and her
when you
breasts grow
twist
or
her
something.
arms, she goes through puberty, basically. So I kind of thought that's maybe how it works. So I walked around pretty much from age 11, 12, 13, going like this, hoping something would happen. But
that must be where all the boys got that idea to tell the girls, if you put your elbows behind your back like
oh my gosh, there's all that kind of advice, isn't there? Just crazy. All right, why don't you read this next part?
Overall, researchers conducted 126 face-to-face interviews with church members, women and men, and gathered 1,333 online surveys from respondents, primarily women, discussing their feelings regarding the church and their own body image. By and large, these were not BYU students, Coyne says in an interview. The researchers sought to create a nationwide sample of various ages, races, and perspectives. They wanted an overall snapshot, she says, of how Latter-day Saints view the church and its approach to body image, and how the institution could improve body image among girls, young women, and women in Utah and beyond.
That's very interesting. Just trying to see if there's a correlation, right? The teachings, the programs, and body image. I have a feeling that there is. So the big question is the subtle impact of Mormonism. Is there an impact? Is it even subtle? I think it's generational. It kind of depends, and we'll talk about that. Religion in general tends to be protective of body image. In fact, individuals who report being more spiritual or religious tend to have much more positive body image than those who report lower levels, the authors, right? Given the established trends, Latter-day Saint individuals should have a very high body image. And I think that has to do with religions telling people God loves you. He loves you how you are. You're very comforted in that.
You're formed in his image.
You're formed in his image. That's right. And so they're saying, given how religious the LDS are, they should have a great body image off the charts, because are they getting that message, or are there some other subtle messages that they're getting? It says, yet Coyne and Barnes note an interesting paradox among the respondents. Here we go. Individuals are regularly engaging with cosmetic surgery or enhancements to improve appearance, they observed, despite Apostle Jeffrey Holland's guidance to not be obsessed with tucking and nipping and implanting and remodeling everything that can be remodeled. And that's interesting. I should have included a picture. I didn't think about it. Do you remember about 2 years ago, people were kind of looking at Elder Holland and going, did you have something done? Do you remember? It was the
he had those eyes that were really baggy. Yes.
Yeah. They were posting before and after, and it looked like he had some kind of Botox or Tux or something. Yeah, but here he is saying that we shouldn't tuck, nip, implant, or remodel everything we've got. So, that seems like a pretty clear statement from Elder Holland.
He was probably talking to the women of the church.
Well, he probably was. Yeah, there's a different standard, but he was definitely trying to say God made you the way you are. God don't make no junk. Don't touch it, right? Interesting.
I don't want God touching my junk. That's for
sure. I'm pretty sure not. No, Landon's just going to be one-liner after one. This was a very serious topic, Landon. You don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so I found this really interesting comment. It was reposted on Reddit, but it was a comment from someone who was on the trib who had read this article. And she just brought up the greatest points that I had to pretty much quote her word for word here. So why don't you read this first part? This is again from a commenter who had read this article that we're going through.
Okay, the commenter is Maria123 on saltlaketribune.com. Multiple prophets and apostles have mandated Mormon women repeatedly to keep yourselves attractive. This turns normal aging into a moral failure for Mormon women.
Yep.
The perfection thing isn't a myth, it's a prophetic mandate. The young women of the 80s and 90s, when church leaders were openly saying this stuff, are now in their 40s and 50s.
Yep.
And these teachings from the 70s and 80s heavily influenced mothers who raised daughters throughout the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, that's what they forget, is that this rhetoric was flowing freely when I was a teenager in the late 70s and the 80s, freely. And people of my age were still impacted by that mindset. And we raised our children with that mindset. So this kind of body image, the ideas that the men had from the pulpit talking to us, I think it's kind of pervasive and it continues today. You probably don't notice this, Landon, but you did have a daughter, and there are issues there with the way that the girls are talked to.
Well, I think now they don't say it, but they show it. You can't see that, but when they call the Young Women's Presidency or the Relief Society Presidency, these women all come up there. They all look like they just came from the day spa with their hair perfect and their business suits and their makeup and their all of these things. Very rarely do you see the standard mother that you would see at church come up as the Relief Society president. It's always someone who looks very businesslike, very professional, very put together. And I think that message gets out to the girls because they see this is who gets called to those positions. And I think that adds to that feeling of competition that you have to look like that in order to get those callings.
I think you're right. Everybody seems to be blonde and, it's very Utah centric. That's absolutely true. And I love that line that I highlighted. This idea, keep yourself attractive, turns normal aging. We all go through it. Sometimes it's a bitch. Oh my gosh. You wake up in the morning and go, what happened? What happened? Normal aging into a moral failure for Mormon women, right? Because of perfectionism, righteous, you look the part, you act the part. Yeah, I don't know. And some people, I think it hits harder than others. Some people are able to kind of rise above it, but other people, it really impacts, and it can be in real issues.
One of the big sayings on the mission was, the more righteous you are, the better looking your wife's going to be.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, now there's this stigma that, righteous men must have gorgeous wives. If you don't have a gorgeous wife, then you must not be righteous.
Yeah, no, I think that still exists. And we've talked before on episodes, and I've talked on the newscast about the idea of the dating pool and the disparity between men and women, the idea of competition. If you know that for every 6 women, there's one temple worthy eligible bachelor to take you to the temple, you're in competition and you know it.
And we don't have to look any further than the prophet's wife and the apostles' wives. When they lose a wife, where do they look to for the new wives? Or the new wives, the woman with 12 grandchildren who, was a homemaker her whole life, and they fall in love with them and say, oh, you followed all of God's commandments and you're a widow and I'll marry you. No, they go after a woman that's 30 years younger who looks like a professional, who has a 401k and all of these things.
Right, but never married, in their 50s.
Never married.
People who did not follow what you were supposed to do. That's what's so strange. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if President Holland got remarried. I don't know if he will or not, but it's kind of interesting. So, all right. So let's see what happened. What happened to us in the 80s, right? So I think these are great. These are pictures of, to the left, that is President Kimball as a young man. Then we have President Benson as a young man, and a very dapper looking President Hinckley. He had that twinkle in his eye, even as a 20-year-old, didn't he? Look at him.
He did, yeah.
That little twinkle. That's right. Anyway, here are some quotes from these prophets. So President Kimball in 1973 says, I tell young women who seem to have missed their chance for desirable marriage that they should do all in their power to make themselves attractive physically. That's important.
It is important. I guess the young men don't have to do that.
No,
Young
yeah, that's kind of the issue. The young men don't. I'm thinking maybe the young men are supposed to make themselves attractive financially. I think maybe
Yeah,
that's what
that might
happened.
be it.
Kind of old school there, I know. President Benson said, keep yourself attractive in a 1988 General Conference talk to the single sisters of the church. So prophet said it, keep yourself attractive, whatever that means to you. And then finally, President Hinckley in 1984 said, make yourself attractive. And this is in a broadcast to married couples. So I think there's that idea that you have to, even once you're married, you better hold it together. And I remember reading, I think it was a Jack Whalen book, honestly, about a couple that was married and she was raising the kids and she was beaten down and she was doing all the church things and her husband was off doing his church things and working. And then eventually he kind of fell in love with someone else, and she was kind of okay with it because she kind of deserved it. And she said in the book, if only one day when he came home and asked me what I did, I had said I hiked the Y, meaning I had done something exciting for myself, but I didn't. I just stayed home and took care of him, right? When I was a teenager and read the book, I was like, that makes sense. Now I want to find that book and burn it. And that's harsh because I'm a librarian. So, but again, it's that idea. You better keep it all up and keep it very nice for your marriage. That exists for sure. Oh, here we go. What does this say, Landon? This is kind of what I was talking about.
See also quite a few church articles and conference talks that implied that men will be disappointed in an unkempt wife.
Right. And this is an Ensign article from 1972, a story in the Ensign, the church magazine.
Oh, hi, I greeted weakly, pushing the damp, stringy hair from my face. Is it 6 o'clock already? He kissed me mechanically and surveyed the situation without a word. Those silent moments said more than an entire lecture on my role as wife and mother. I no longer felt like the adored girl he married.
Oh, because she'd been home all day with the kids and doing all the stuff. Yeah.
I love this one.
Yes, here's a very famous quote. I think most of you know this. This is our own wonderful Elder Ballard. This is a YSA devotional. This was in 2015, and they've scrubbed a lot of this. I think there's an audio out there. I have the transcript, but the video, I haven't been able to find that. It's pretty hard to find. So he said, talking to the young single adults, as you know, every time we look at you, I know you're just waiting for me to talk about marriage, aren't you? Right? So he assumes our young single adults, they want to talk about marriage. I will not want to disappoint you. I just simply say to the brethren, wake up, open your eyes and look around a little. I guess that means look around for your spouse. Yeah. And you beautiful girls, don't wander around looking like men. Put on a little lipstick now and then and look a little charming. It's that simple. I don't know why we make this whole process so hard, and realize that life is a lot easier to stay on the white line. And that was the whole purpose of his talk, stay on the white line. And on the right side, when you have a companion, that it is when you don't have one. So that's the whole motivation, right? Easier for a couple to keep each other in line, stay on the line and stay in. So you better put on some lipstick and find your spouse now.
You know what they say about putting lipstick on a pig.
Well, say no more, say no more. There it is.
I'm wondering, maybe Tim's about to come in and they're going to go on an operation together.
That could happen. That's possible. He's dressing up fancy for the strip club. Is that what you're?
For the strip club. So
I don't think Elder Ballard actually got down and dirty. I don't think he ever got hands on the ground.
But what's the roost? The couple's roost.
The couple's roost.
Go out.
No, I don't think Elder Ballard. Although, as we know, Elder Ballard did approve of the couple's ruse, and he did tell Tim that God approves of what he has to do, whatever it takes for the children, whatever it takes. So, but yeah, I don't know what he's exactly putting on there. It also looks like he has nail polish.
He does have some nail polish there. Well,
interesting. But yeah, a lot of these talks
practices what he preaches, evidently.
That's right. Although this was 2015, so there is still that idea of, come on, girls, look pretty, right? And of course, these are your anointed leaders telling you this, so you better pay attention and do what they say. Here's a really good one. This is a Von J. Featherstone talk called Self-Inflicted Purging. This is 1975 conference talk. I read this talk. This talk needs to be purged. He hit the homosexuality problem, adultery, masturbation several times, the Adam God theory. He just threw everything in there that a person could possibly need to, quote, purge themselves of. Seriously, you need to look this up. It's very interesting. And he was just telling these random stories and throwing these things out. Let's talk about masturbation. It was like a comedy routine where he just go from topic to topic, only it wasn't funny. And so this is a story about a young girl getting advice from a bishop and how detrimental it was to her family.
You want me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And what a valuable thing a covenant in our lives can be if we will let it guide us. Another problem, an overweight girl from Ogden went to see her bishop. In the purity and goodness of charity, trying to help the girl, he counseled her that it might be a good idea to lose a few pounds. Pitifully heartbroken, she went home and told her father. It had cankered her soul. The father, of course, negative toward the church all of his life, waiting for something like this. Yes,
of course,
negative towards. Of course, he was cankerous all the way until they just, made a little insult to his daughter.
Right, waiting to be offended his whole life. A canker.
Now it breaks open that he can go. Waiting for something like this, sprung like a cat on the bishop's back, and they came down to see me and wanted their memberships transferred out of the bishop's ward. I asked them why, because I didn't know all of this background, and they said, well, our bishop suggested to our daughter that she might lose a few pounds and make herself a little more attractive. Now, I want you to know that I defended that great bishop. I said to this family, you are wrong. That sweet bishop, out of purity and love for your daughter, felt and did that which he was impressed to do. I am sure it was a message from God to your daughter.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And she let it canker her soul. The strange thing is that she was probably up in her bedroom that night before praying, Heavenly Father, I'm lonely. I need someone. Please help me. Help me to find someone so I won't be so lonely. And yet oftentimes we're offended because a sweet bishop gives us some instruction, which is hard for us to live.
Wow. Like I said, he was just telling all these random stories. I'm just not sure. But again, the message from God is you got to lose a little, right? You got to look better. So I don't know. I hope you guys are commenting and letting us know if any of these things have ever happened to you. I have a couple stories that I'm going to share. So there is a movie, a church movie called The Fat Fighters, and it came out in 1971. Where they follow the lives of a few young co-eds who are having trouble looking perfect like you need to look when you're a co-ed and you're trying to date and your ultimate goal of finding a mate. So I thought I would show a couple of these clips because this kind of rhetoric was really real when I was growing up as a teenager.
I like red licorice and I just like regular food, just cornbread, biscuits and beans and fried chicken and, just food.
I eat too much, too often.
When I get nervous, I eat, and when I'm depressed, I eat, and I just eat anytime.
Well, I don't like myself fat. I really, in fact, I could say I hate myself, and I feel really self-conscious around other people. I feel like everyone's watching me, and I feel like, a fat person just isn't lovable.
My parents are overweight. It could have been from their example, but I think it's just because of myself. I just never controlled myself or my diet or anything.
I'm too fat because I eat too much.
Well, maybe I think food is security.
It kind of numbs me.
I don't date very much. I date a few times, and most of the guys are just friends. So it doesn't really matter anyway.
My sister came up to see me, and she's lost a lot of weight, and she's just, wherever we went together, everybody was always, she's your sister? Wow. Your sisters? I don't see how you can be sisters. You don't even look at all alike. And here she is, 95 pounds,
Mm-hmm. So what were they telling you, Claudia?
Your big sister's a fat slob.
BYU.
Wow.
Wow. We're going to watch a couple more clips. What did you think about that intro, Landon?
Wow. I don't know what to
speechless.
say there. Yeah.
But what I would like to say is, though, a lot of those girls, all of those girls look just fine to me. You know what I mean? And some of those that are really complaining, I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of shaming going on, I think. And to hold out 95 pounds is an ideal. That's so interesting. But this is BYU, right?
Well, this is LDS culture where
Yes.
everything you go to do in the church, you eat.
Yes,
That's
true.
It's the LDS church that owns C&H and Utah Sugar
Ooh.
for hundreds of years. And it's the sugar in the diets that are causing a lot of this, so very interesting to see.
Well, it is, and it's funny because they talk about the health code, the word of wisdom, but sugar is a huge part of the diet of people that aren't able to eat other things. And I know a lot of post-Mormons say, oh, my palate, I still have such a sweet palate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I still like the sweet things. And I'm guilty. And didn't we just eat Fig Newtons? I think we did. I think I gave you one. So and I still have my Jammy Dodgers from my episode with Nemo here on my desk. These are actually really good. They're from England, right? UK, Jammy Dodgers.
It's empty.
Well, no, it's not empty. Stop.
Oh, you still got one. Okay.
There's a lot left on this side. I'm saving it we're doing an episode with Nemo on Sunday. So I'm saving them so we can eat. Favorite food of Nemo. What was I going to say? Yeah. So it is very interesting that, the palate, I think it changes and you realize, oh, everyone else around me has an adult palate, right? They're not eating Cocoa Puffs as a 60-year-old woman. I don't know who I'm talking about exactly.
I don't know who that would be.
Yikes. All right. So let's watch these women as they try to exercise. They've got to be perfect.
Okay. I thought that was a Catholic nun.
Oh, look, they're teasing her.
They did not make that splash sound giant, did they?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's hopeless. I know I can lose weight through this program. They're very realistic about what they're trying to do, and it makes you be responsible for your actions.
Sitting there and trying to understand why other people are eating too much throws light upon why I do.
It probably isn't a good excuse that I was sick all week. I was in bed and I went to the doctor. And when your throat feels awful, ice cream feels good on it. It just felt so good to have something cold in my throat that I ate. I mean, I don't want, no.
So Don's been eating ice cream all winter.
What did he just do with his tongue?
Did he just lick his lips like she looked delicious?
Ice cube,
Don's been eating ice cream all winter.
We try to help her see herself through the eyes of other group members, to realize her self-deceit.
I mean, I know I can't use this as an excuse on my life, but it made me feel better then. So.
How long do you want to use it as an excuse?
I don't know.
I bumped into you 2 or 3 times, during the week, and we talked, and I got the impression you were really sticking with it, and it was obvious you were scarfing up everything in sight,
Oh, I think that's like a boyfriend or something telling her she's eating too much.
All the men are in there telling the women how.
You're scarfing it up.
No, because when I talked to you, that was in the beginning of the week when I was. But the weekends, they just always.
Yeah, and she's having to justify it. And I'm sorry. That girl is.
You're like the person that eats very sparingly at the table, but standing up, moving around, eats a lot.
Yeah. Who has that in their
Is
fridge?
that Little
just
House on the
there.
Prairie? It looked like.
Nobody cares about a balanced diet. What can a mother do?
Along with some personal successes, there were predictable setbacks. Karen Ruth's old habits don't die easily, and they don't fade away either. Judy goes through the cafeteria line with a glass of orange juice and a toothpick, but when no one is watching, she relapses into her pattern of self-deceit. Her group commitments need strength.
What is that?
And it's pretty much the same with Claudia.
No idea.
Her commitments must become permanent and stable if she's going to melt that iceberg. Dawn is still ambivalent
Melt that
about
iceberg?
her.
Is that what you did?
She doesn't know whether the struggle is worth it at this point or not. But she is thinking seriously about it. Karen has all the answers in the therapy sessions, but at home it's a different matter. Her problem, as with the others, is not only a weight adjustment, but primarily a personal adjustment. Her self-defeating behavior is evident. Making changes is painful for anyone, but especially for these overweight girls.
Yeah. So basically they go through therapy. They're in a program at BYU. They're getting coaching on just changing their whole mindset. And it sounds like at some point they have like their boyfriends come in or people come in that kind of shame them. That one part where he goes, you said you'd be good. And then you scarfed it all down during the week. And the woman's like, well, no, I was good during the week. But then on the weekend, yeah, it's very painful to watch. But these were the kind of movies they put out.
Yeah, this is BYU, and it looked like their church leaders were the ones.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a faith-based program. It's absolutely a faith-based program. That's for sure. So our final clip shows us, I guess, the success story. What happened after they went through this program?
Some have reached their goal. The behavior patterns, however, will need to be modified further. But now, Judy is dating for the first time. Some of the reasons for her being overweight are melting along with the fat. Dawn is engaged to be married soon. Heather also is engaged. Claudia, she doesn't hide behind her size like she used to. Being feminine can be fun. Personality change is synonymous with behavioral change. Life is much more meaningful when we are in control of our behavior. Whether we are eating, playing, working, or just getting along with others, it helps to be in control. With an emphasis on commitment action encounters, we have watched our fat fighters struggle
workout
with
clothes
some complex problems.
No, they clearly
Exercising,
did.
planning,
Running in a
changing,
sweater
hurting,
and stretch pants.
succeeding, and setbacks
Dress shoes.
are all a part of the battle. The girls are getting to know themselves.
And there it is.
There you go.
That's right. Well, I think they all seemed like they were wonderful
Some have
people,
reached the
and
goal.
I
Behavior patterns,
feel bad.
however,
But anyway, it's a mixed bag when you talk about something like this. But these kind of movies were everywhere, and I loved all these movies when I was growing up. We'd rent them or check them out from the ward library and take them home with all these messages. But it always was, you need to be really attractive. You need to catch your Mormon man, and then everything's going to be just perfect and amazing. That was the message.
And it still is.
And it's still, I think it still might be. All right. Do you want to read this one, Landon? Back to the survey.
Sure. Some respondents say they turned to cosmetic surgery for religious reasons, even praying about it. One woman who underwent nose surgery and breast augmentation told researchers, I prayed asking God if it was the right thing to do. I felt very comforted that it was right, and there was nothing that I was doing to offend God. Indeed, Coyne and Barnes discovered a subtle religious impulse in individuals' decisions to enhance their bodies, the need for perfection.
And there it is. We talk about perfection all the time. And I think recently it's gotten better. I think they're alluding to perfection as being the best you that you can be, or doing the best that you personally can be. But those undertones are still there of perfection. And when you're in a ward with a lot of people, and you're there all the time, you see everybody's lives, you see what they have, what they do, what they look like. There's no way that you're not going to compare. There's absolutely no way that you're not going to make those comparisons. I think about, I had all boys, so I was always in scouts, right? I was always the cub mistress. I was always off in the corner of the church with a bunch of boys running around me. And then I would see the young women presidency walk in, right? It's the same night, scouts and young women's young men. They were like Twilight vampires. They were in slow motion. They were walking into the young women's room. There was a certain look to people that were called into the young women's presidency. There was a certain look to people that were called into scouts, right? Yeah, it was an upper echelon thing, right? I never dared cross that threshold, with the young women's leaders. So I don't know if anybody else felt that, you were kind of the callings where you looked a certain way. I don't know.
I don't understand this. The brethren came out and told you no more than one piercing, no tattoos.
Yep.
That doesn't enhance anything.
Yep.
But yeah, go ahead and cut your organs and do whatever you need to look pretty. Why did they never come out with any suggestion on that? Which tells me they must be okay with that. If you're fixing your nose and your breasts, it's okay.
Yeah.
If you're tattooing your arm or putting a nose piercing or a second pair of earrings, then you're
those are more overt. You can see when somebody, has done that. And again, it's a super personal decision and there's no right or wrong. It's up to whoever,
agree.
Whatever. There's absolutely nothing that anyone can say about that. But that idea that you have to keep up or that you have to have some kind of perfection, for a reason other than your own personal satisfaction, that's when it starts to get into that area where it's not great. And what do you think about the whole idea? You're righteous, you're praying about it. That's okay. We pray about our major decisions, right? And that's a major decision. A lot of these are major surgeries, so it's okay to pray. But what do they think about the resurrection? When you are returned to exactly how you looked, as my parents told me, 32 years old. Everybody will return to how they look when they were 32 years old.
Well, if this is true and all these women had all these enhancements,
that's what I'm saying.
During the resurrection, there's going to be a lot of silicone laying around.
That's what I'm saying. Yep, there's going to be a lot of foreskins flapping around like butterflies looking for their owners. Yeah, I've never heard anybody weigh in on any of that. What happens? Do you get to keep the enhancements that you like? I have no idea.
I don't know. That's a good question.
So I guess I should have probably looked in the topical guide on the church website, but I don't think they say anything about that. Again, totally personal decision between you, maybe your partner, your God. It's up to you. But if you feel like you have that influence from the church, that's where it starts to get a little dicey. So respondents who were more likely to have had cosmetic surgery were those who were wealthy, since some procedures can be costly. A mommy makeover is like, I don't even know how much, but I think it's a lot.
I saw a sign for $7,000 for a daddy makeover. There's a couple signs on the freeway.
What's a daddy makeover?
It's the new mommy makeover, I guess. But for dad bods, to take your dad bod into something that looks like this, that's about $7,000.
I feel like we might need a podcaster's makeover. But you know what? It'd be really cheap because it only has to be from here up. Like
That's
it doesn't
right.
even matter what we look like from there down. Nobody sees anything. So yeah, if we can be made over from here up, that would be great. Donate now. All right. Let's see. They were wealthy since the procedures are costly, and those who have the highest religious salience, the researchers explained. That's very interesting. These individuals were highly religious. However, they may erroneously believe that religion is tied to perfection in a variety of ways, including physical appearance or finances. Oh my gosh, I can attest to that. I have been in some wards, I'm telling you. And they may attempt to conform to what is referred to as the thin ideal in the United States culture. Again, this is there's a cultural element to this that's absolutely pervasive. But yeah, the financial and, that thin, a certain look, a certain wealth. I tried to make an AI of a rich Barbie. She has a lot of things around her. And I don't know. And maybe it depends on what ward you're in. I've lived in wards of different economic categories, if you can say that.
And I don't think this is just a Mormon thing. I see this as a very Christian thing. Yeah. I see every time you see a pastor, the pastor is always there with his beautiful wife on his arm, and it's part of the sales job. Oh, if you follow God and you're righteous and you pay your tithing, he blesses you with this. That's the message that they're trying to send through that. And you see it throughout. And I think I've seen a lot of times where I think bishops got called in because their wives are good looking and it makes them look like they're successful and righteous. And so they get put in because I've seen that happen before.
Yeah. It's possible. It's like the joke that says, how do they choose a new bishop for the ward? They find the person in the ward that is the most accomplished, kind, intelligent, wonderful, compassionate, and then they call her husband.
Yeah.
But bump, right? But not, because it's true. I think that's completely true. So for them, appearing to be perfect, worthy, righteous member of the church means looking the part as well. The BYU scholars explain. It might be what some call Utah's perfection culture that quietly whispers, you aren't good enough the way you are. And I know that exists, that idea that if you're living, you must be living right. How many times have we heard that, right? Something good happens to somebody and you say, oh, you must be living right. You don't necessarily voice it when something bad happens. Oh, you must have been living wrong. But I guarantee people think it. You know what I mean? So the idea, just the idea of your appearance and what you appear to have or be, it's really important because it means you're put together. It means that everything's in place. Your look, your home, your spirituality. Like I said, I had 3 boys. They were pretty unruly. I never could get their church clothes in order. And if someone were to ask me the honest, true, dig deep reason why I left the church, it's because of Sunday church clothes, because it was a nightmare. I could, they'd outgrow everything throughout the week. Nobody could find shoes. Nobody could find belts, shirts, couldn't find the white ones, had to wear the blue one. They were looked down on. I would hang the clothes over the banister Saturday nights. They would disappear. It was a nightmare. I was never that mom that could have them all perfectly dressed. I mean, it's kind of like ballerina farms, right? That's been in the news lately, where you have the trad wife, the perfect life, the perfect children, the perfect husband, and people are questioning that. That's also been in the news. They're questioning that lifestyle. Is it real? Is it realistic to hold that up to others that might feel like they're coming up short because they cannot achieve that? Perfectionism.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal of be therefore perfect.
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately, I think it's in the culture. I think they do try now to say be the best you can be, but we all know that it exists very differently in the real world.
Yeah. Why didn't he say be therefore flawed, but be the best flawed person you can be?
That is more realistic. You need to rewrite the scriptures, Landon.
I think I will.
All right, let's continue with the article. I just think this is really fascinating because, it's something I think everybody thinks about in their back of the mind. Is this happening? Is this real? Now we've got stats, we've got commentary. Ooh, here we go. Okay, do you want to read this, Landon? We've got a Barbie and a turtle. Modest is hottest. That's right.
When asked about the language of modesty, participants described feeling judged. Some 30% see modesty as having a positive impact on their own body image, with 47% reported as a negative. They feel better about modesty when leaders focus on respect, empowerment, and humility.
Yep. And I think probably boys, you guys probably didn't get very much about modesty, I'm guessing, growing up.
Oh, we got the modesty talk, but it was, insist on modesty in the girls that you're dating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly. And it's really, I was thinking about this weird juxtaposition because you get these messages that you have to be attractive and you have to look nice, but then you also get the message, you better be modest. You better, not look a certain way. There's this fine line, right? Hot enough, but modest enough, right? And I've had leaders weigh in on, things that are happening to you biologically when you're going through puberty. And, to me personally saying, oh, you're distracting the scouts. I think maybe, no, don't even laugh. It was actually extremely traumatic.
Scouts are 12, 13-year-old boys. They're distracted by a stick,
Yeah. No, I pretty much was this height and looked like this when I was 13. And, girls always mature faster than boys, and I did. I had a male leader say to me, you got to do something about that, whatever that is, right?
You should have said, you need to do something about that.
I should. But you know what? When you're being
I'll get a knife.
Yeah. When you're traumatized and you don't know what they're talking about and you don't know what you're doing, you're just being you, I was told once I was too tan, that it was drawing attention to my body and, it was distracting. So again, girls get all these messages, look attractive, but then not too attractive and not attractive at the wrong time and not in the right place. But someone's going to want you to be attractive so they can be a bishop, right? Like you just said. So,
well, I never understood, that why would you tell women not to do this? And at the same time, you're telling them, don't go to the gym. I've heard in sacrament meeting, women don't go to the gym.
Oh yeah.
Because that's where affairs happen. You go to the gym, you're going to have an affair. But go get a boob job, instead of go to the gym. Or
if you go to the
spend
gym,
$7,000 for liposuction, but don't go to the gym.
Don't go to the gym. If you go to the gym, you might actually start to feel empowered in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And that's not good when you start to feeling empowering. When I first moved into the house where I've lived for the last over 20 years, there was a letter that appeared on my porch from the stake president. I didn't know anybody in the neighborhood. I did go to the gym. I did run a lot. And the letter was from the stake for everybody. And it said, sisters, ask yourself this question. When you go to the gym, do you leave your gym clothes on all day? Or do you change back into your garments like you're supposed to, right? And I'm reading it going, that's the workaround. You stay in your gym clothes all day. And then it said, and then ask yourself, do you really have to go to the gym? I'm like, what did I move into? Yeah, I found out later. It was exactly that. That letter said it all. But yeah, there's this idea that you can absolutely interfere. This is the same stake off topic that said nobody was allowed to leave for the weekend. You could leave for Friday and Saturday, but you had to come back for Sunday to fulfill your callings.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I remember laughing when they said that until I saw all of my neighbors coming home on Saturday nights. And I was extremely upset because you know what that says?
Goodness.
It says that, yeah, every aspect of your life, everything you do, you're going to let some letter dictate it. Why not go off for the weekend and have a wonderful time with your family instead of driving all the way back? So anyway, it just speaks to
yoga
control.
Pants make up for a lot of flaws. So
what do?
Yoga pants.
Yoga pants. Oh, we can't let Landon talk about yoga pants. Nope, not at all. Those have been in the news too lately, and yoga pants and garments and all that. It's all crazy like this. So, but this survey, this information kind of puts it all in perspective here. So yeah, the whole modest is hottest thing. Yeah, that's almost every slide here could be a podcast in its own. And we're just kind of touching on each topic from the article. So here's one. I totally agree with this. Garments and body image. Some 30% describe wearing garments, underclothing worn by faithful Latter-day Saints, as having a negative effect on their body image, making them feel frumpy and unattractive. Yep. And that was me. Absolutely. I didn't recognize it as a body dysmorphia thing, but I can still recall the first moment that I put garments on under my regular clothes, and I just didn't feel like myself ever again until I took them off.
I question this number. Is this 30% of all respondents, whether they were Latter-day Saints or not?
Well, no, they were all Latter-day Saints.
Or this is all Latter-day Saints and only 30% say wearing, because I find that hard to believe. I would think 70 or 80%. Even when I was true believing, I would always go, these really make me look ridiculous. Or, your spouse, and you're going, that is not a sexy look, and, they could be sexy when they wore the right thing, but garments was not the sexy thing.
No, no. And again, feel attractive to look attractive. You have to feel attractive. It really doesn't matter what you look like.
Exactly.
It's your feeling, right? And your persona and, what you emote, and having the garment on definitely for some people makes that very difficult. So I in AI put in frumpy Barbie. So that's frumpy Barbie, I guess.
Oh, frumpy Barbie.
Feeling frumpy. That's right. So the other thing they brought up, do you want to read this one?
Diversity issues. For many Beehive State, culture is viewed as being particularly toxic in terms of body image, especially given that it is far less diverse in terms of race, clothing, and body shape and size. And they ought to mention religion. That's right. And that's true, because a lot of the advice and the things that are said, it seems to be very skewed and very geared toward the Utah look, right? That I have right there. So I can see how people would feel that's not inclusive at all, and certainly not understanding of all women everywhere. So yeah, I made a lot of Barbies, didn't I? And I guess we should say that respondents to the survey were also men, weren't they? They weren't just women. I guess they were.
Yeah, they weren't. So here I have a picture. I put in perfect LDS young man, and it came up on the left. And I have to say that kind of looks like some of my kids. I don't know if it could read my mind or not. And on the right, of course, is, the perfect Barbie, Mormon Barbie man right there. Exactly. But even men have that that perfectionism.
Oh,
Although
he should have a white shirt on under that.
I know he doesn't have a white shirt there. It's true. Although I feel for men, there's a whole other pressure, and that's another podcast, to be financially successful, to be provide and preside, right? If you've ever heard those words, that's also a lot of pressure too. And the women are told to become attractive so that you can find somebody that will provide and preside.
So that
If you ever heard that phrase, I heard that for the first.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what?
So you can be called as the bishop and stake president.
So you can be called as the bishop.
couple,
That's right.
So.
That's right. You need somebody that's going to climb that church ladder. And have you ever heard the term provide and preside?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard that for the first time in, like I said, the ward I moved into about 20 years ago. And everybody was like, we provide and preside. And I'm like, that is, wow, I've never really heard that phrase before. So, but yeah, some of the people getting cosmetic procedures are men. And again, nothing at all wrong with that. It's an extremely personal choice. The only problem is if you feel pressure from your religious organization or people, then, you may not be doing what's best for you personally if you're letting something on the outside influence you. So here are the top cosmetic surgeries that men can have. Do you want to read these, Landon?
Eyelid rejuvenation.
Mm-hmm.
Probably from falling asleep in church.
That's what I was going to say. I would say anybody on the scan needs that because everyone's like this the whole time, right?
Neck lift.
That's
for those
good.
Jowls of talking.
That's a good one. That would probably be considered like a podcaster's makeover because you're right there and everybody's looking at you right there.
Rhinoplasty, which is nose job.
A nose job. Yeah.
Chin augmentation.
Yep.
Liposuction.
Yep.
Pectoral implants.
That's a big one. That's what I read about the most. And that's just, you don't need to go to the gym. You just,
I do it naturally anyway.
Yes. There you heard it.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I look like a woman.
No, that's coming up down there, number 5 or whatever. The next one, in fact.
Gynecomastia?
Yes.
Male breast reduction. Breast reduction.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be.
I'm telling you, for our younger viewers, your body goes to hell after a certain point. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And there's nothing perfect about it. That's right. And then the final one, I don't know if we can even read that without getting unmonetized. This was just a list I copied.
Penile augmentation. Yes.
Yep. There it is. That's exactly right.
I'm happy to say I'm 4 inches of natural patriarchy.
Oh my God. We're going to get demonetized. Stop it. I apologize to all of our viewers and listeners for Landon's behavior. I think he's on a sugar high from a fig Newton that he ate.
The fig Newtons do it. Yeah.
That's right. That's it. So please ignore everything Landon has said for like the last 10 minutes, maybe 20. All right. So again, men, but I was going to say the only true way that you can really judge the perfection of a man in the church is what, Landon?
How many chairs he can carry.
How many chairs he can carry in the cultural hall. I can't tell you how many girls in my dorm at BYU picked their husband because of that. We'd all go to an activity. We'd come home. Did you see Bart? Did you see how many chairs he carried?
It's even more impressive how many you can carry without any hands.
I really have no idea how that would work. So, but yeah, this guy is carrying 1, 2, I think
he's got 8 there, I think. Isn't he?
Or more. No, I think he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think he's got like 6 or 7 in each arm.
Okay.
Anyway, that's pretty impressive. But yeah, there is that quality there.
The perfect Mormon male right there, folks.
Yep. But you know what? We joke about it, but what it really means is it's somebody that's willing to help out. He's, community minded, and he's happy to. I mean, Mormons can take down chairs like locusts faster than anyone else in the world. I admit we all take advantage.
I can still do it to this day. I stand up at a city meeting and it's like, where do the chairs go?
No, we all have that. It's a chair gene. I'm not kidding. Even on the post-Mormon side, you're at Sunstone. Do we need to stack these? You're at a Thrive meeting. Where do the chairs go? It's just like we cannot live without taking the chairs. It's so ingrained. I think I've told this story before about my sweet grandpa who toward the end, he had dementia, and he kept saying some of the very last words that he said are, please, as you're leaving, put the chairs away, take the tablecloths off. I mean, the stuff he had said his entire life, presiding, in all those positions. His final words were like, please take down the chairs. Isn't that funny?
I
It's funny and
remember
sad
sitting in
and-
state conference thinking up an invention that I could make that would make that you could just roll out and all the chairs would just pop up and then you could roll it back in and they'd all go back
like
together.
magnets, or like something that just went down a row.
Like an
and
accordion, it would, you'd roll it out and all the chairs would
Oh.
just pop up
Oh,
and
like
you'd spin them, then you'd roll it back and they'd all go, because I didn't want to pick up the chair.
I like that idea though. That seems like that's really feasible. Hey, you engineers out there, let's figure this out. That
Get
does
working
sound,
on it. Yep.
yeah, no, I love that. I can see that. It's just kind of like,
But if you did, then the the dating criteria and selection criteria
right.
would all be ruined.
That's
and
right.
how would you know who to marry? So
that's right. It's the
can't
alpha male
destroy the
syndrome.
culture.
Yep, with all the chairs. That's exactly it. So, all right, there we go. So the article ends up with some positive practices that people who may be feeling pressure, religious pressure from leaders or other people in their ward or stake, some positive practices that we could all try to enact to make sure everybody has body positivity and autonomy and can make their own decisions and choices about what they're going to do. So positive practices include engage in open conversations around how church practices, such as garments, the word of wisdom, modesty, are related to body image. So talk about it like we're doing tonight, right? Talk it through. Don't just like wonder about it or be influenced by it on your own. Just talk about it out loud. That's a good one. What's the next one, Landon?
Emphasize acceptance, love, and warmth.
That's right. It doesn't matter physically what you look like. Acceptance, love, and warmth. I love that. In a vacuum, I think that works. I think in a ward setting, we all have stories where that did not work, right? Unfortunately, yeah. Focus on attachment to God as a primary way to reduce body images concerns. And I think that's what they talked about at the beginning. Religious people who believe Jesus loves me, God loves me. It doesn't matter if I'm not perfect. God accepts me the way I am. God made me the way I am. It helps you, kind of accept and understand yourself.
Celebrate and encourage diversity.
Yep, that's a big one too. And focus on principles when teaching about modesty as opposed to practices. That's right. Don't tell somebody specifically what they need to do. Like my youth leader when I was 14, who told me I needed to wear a pilgrim collar to, I don't know, just kind of
square those up.
Yeah, that's what she said. We had a little tutorial on what kind of collar would look better on you. And all my friends got these cute little, oh, that's adorable. And she goes, Rebecca, pilgrim collar. It should come down to here. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I don't understand what's happening. I was very naive. My parents never had the talk with me. I didn't know what was happening. So anyway, and I made Barbie Jesus, which I think is great.
What is this picture? Was this made by the Paris Olympic Committee or where did this come from?
Oh, stop. That was Dionysus. That was not the Last Supper. No, this is Barbie Jesus. So I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. Focus on principles when teaching about modesty as opposed to practices. So anyway, these are some positive takeaways from the article. But, I think they definitely proved, or I think they proved that there is some kind of correlation, perhaps, to, I don't know, LDS doctrine, or maybe not doctrine, but culture, right? And I actually think it's just everybody living on top of each other. You know what I mean? Like you see everybody every day, every Sunday, you see what they're wearing, you see their kids, their business. It's really difficult not to get caught up in that. I have to look great. My kids have to look great, because everyone's watching me. And how many of us grew up? I did all the time. What will the neighbors think? Right? What will the neighbors know? Because all your neighbors are LDS. So they do know everything about you.
I can't get over this picture. Did Jesus get breast augmentation?
No, that's a Barbie Jesus. Oh my gosh. Stop.
Barbie Jesus.
That is Barbie Jesus.
Well, we know he's got a TK smoothie then. So
that's right. Like I said, I never had a Ken doll. I don't know what's down there. So, and then I had all sons. So I never even had Barbie, to kind of play with when I was a mom. I never had my dream of a Barbie dream house come true.
Yeah, but you have your dream of a William Shatner Barbie now. So
I do have a William Shatner Barbie. I displayed that on an episode a couple months ago. My friends in Idaho Falls got one for me, and that was really fun. A Star Trek Barbie. Yeah. So
Twin Falls, they're in Twin.
Twin Falls. That's right, Twin Falls. I forgot. Hi, you guys. All right. So our final slide, this just shows how old I am. Saturday Night Live in the 80s. Stuart Smalley. Do you know who this is, Landon?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I do. He was a kind of a self-help coach before there were even self-help coaches. And he came up with the phrase, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me, by Stuart Smalley, right? He would say that into the mirror several times a day. which I think we all should say to ourselves, right? That's the whole message of the whole thing, is everybody's okay the way they are.
Absolutely. And I think the key to this episode is, I happen to know women who've had breast augmentations and other surgeries, and they look great. And I have no issues with that. If that's what people want to do or whatever, I'm fine with that. It's just, as you look at it from a church standpoint, that it just seems odd that 14% compared to 4% would be doing this, which tells you that there must be something else behind it within the Mormon culture that is pushing this need to have this.
Right. This perfectionism, which wasn't even really meant, I don't think, biblically to be perfect. I think there's some translation issues there, right? I think it really is just supposed to be that you're good enough, you're smart enough, doggone it, people like me. I feel like that's in the scriptures, don't you think?
Should be. I think that's Smalley 1:5, isn't it?
I think that's right. You just have to change it and say, instead of doggone and low, people like me. You just have to say and low, and then I think it would fit in the scriptures. It may be scriptures 200 years from now. Who knows? So anyway, it's been a fun episode. It's a very interesting topic. And, I think we just covered it pretty superficially. Like I said, each one of these little elements of it probably could have been its own podcast, because there's a lot to go through there when you're talking about body positivity and perfectionism. But yeah, I thought that Peggy did a great job covering that, and it's an interesting topic. So any final thoughts, Landon?
Just the older I get, the harder it is to have body positivity.
I know
I'm just positive everything hurts. And
I know.
it's.
I know. And am I 5 years older than you or 4 years? I can't remember. I know I'm a lot older than you.
I think you're only three.
Am I only 3?
Something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. I was a teenager in the 70s. Not a lot of people can say that.
I know. You look 20 years younger than me, though. So
that's a filter. I have it all the time. I've got 200 ring lights. Not at all. All right, everybody, please comment and let us know what you think about this whole issue of cosmetic surgery and Utah. Is it more prevalent with Mormons? I guess I shouldn't just say Utah. I should say the LDS, the culture. Is it more prevalent there? I'd love to hear what everybody thinks, what you have noticed anecdotally. I think it's a really interesting topic, especially when we're talking about kids, teenagers, young adults. It's important that they feel safe and comfortable with body positivity. And it's important that they feel accepted, no matter, everybody looks great, and feel free to be themselves. I think that's really important. So please like and subscribe to Mormonish Podcast. And if you'd like to be made aware of when new episodes come out, you can hit the notification bell. If you would like to financially help support the efforts of Mormonish Podcast, we have a link in the show notes to Donor Box. We are a 501(c)(3) finally, and it's very easy to set up a monthly donation or a donation. And we are thrilled and appreciate and love everybody that donates. We just can't believe that you do. It's amazing. We just so appreciate it. You guys are just so wonderful. And we also, of course, have a link to our merch store, mugs, and all kinds of other fun Mormonish stuff. And we will catch you all next time on the next episode of Mormonish Podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Landon, for co-hosting. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Mormonish. We really appreciate our listeners and would love to hear from you if you have a story you'd like to share. You can email us at mormonishpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, mormonishpodcast.org. And don't forget to look for us on YouTube and like and subscribe. Keep joyful, everybody.